Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello, dear students. Today we are going to have a discussion on Piaget's theory of cognitive development. And this is a part of a module which is Learning and Development Theories. I am Dr. Aerum Khan, Assistant Professor at IASC, Faculty of Education, Jamia Millia, Islamia, New Delhi. So, students, let us see a few of the details about Jean Piaget before going ahead with the theory of cognitive development given by him. So, he was born in 1896 and he stayed in this world till 1980. Jean Piaget was a Swiss biologist and he later on turned into a cognitive and child psychologist. He is well known for providing a stage theory of cognitive development for explaining the development of thinking in human beings from the stages of infancy to adulthood. And he was having a very keen interest in studying the cognitive and child psychology that he, along with his wife, devoted their precious like primary years of their marriage into the study of the cognitive development of their own three children by making them the subjects of their laboratory study. And that is why we can say that this particular theory is based on a longitudinal study, which actually means that the entire lifespan, the early lifespan of the three children of Jean Piaget were studied. So it was done in a longitudinal manner. That's why we can say that it's a longitudinal study. So as a result, today his theory of cognitive development has no parallel in the history of research in the field of developmental, cognitive, and child psychology. So today we are going to have uh, a thorough discussion on the cognitive theory of Jean Piaget. So let us see. Basically, Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development explains how a child constructs a mental model of the world. He disagreed with the idea that intelligence was a fixed trait and regarded cognitive development as a process which occurs due to biological maturation and interaction with the environment. Piaget was the first psychologist to make a systematic study of cognitive development. His one of the most important contributions include a stage theory of children's cognitive development, which is the topic of discussion today. So Piaget showed that young children think in strikingly different ways as compared to the adults. So according to Piaget, children are born with a very basic mental structure, genetically inherited and evolved, on which all subsequent learning and knowledge are based. He designed a proper framework to understand the structure, functioning, and development of the cognitive network of human mind. He postulated that, like physical organs of the human body, there are two aspects of the human mind, and which he regarded as the cognitive structure and the cognitive functioning. So now let us see that what are the basic components of Piaget's cognitive theory. First of all, we will just take a brief or quick overview of what are those basic components, and then we will go ahead and discuss in detail about all those components one by one. So the first component here is the cognitive structure. Under this cognitive structure comes the concept of schema. Schema or building blocks of knowledge. Then the second basic component is the cognitive functioning, which is basically the adaptation processes that enable the transition from one stage to another. And under this, we have got three, or you can say there are four stages. There is equilibrium and disequilibrium. We have got assimilation and we have got accommodation. Then there are stages of cognitive development, and these stages, according to Piaget, we can say that there are four stages. And the first stage is sensory motor stage, then pre-operational stage, concrete operational stage, and formal operational stage. So now we will go ahead and see one by one the details of all those basic points. So the first thing which we have mentioned here is the cognitive structures. What are these cognitive structures? So unlike other creatures, the human baby is born with a few practical instincts and reflexes, such as sucking, looking, reaching, and grasping, etc. So, therefore, the initial cognitive structure of infants is supposed to incorporate only those cognitive abilities or potentials which help them to do all these acts, like looking towards some entity, or if somebody is calling, they will look towards that person, then reaching out or grasping some of those things or noises which are actually in like while interacting we make. So Piaget named these abilities or potentials as schemas and termed them as the basic building blocks of our thinking. He defined them as the organized systems of actions or thoughts that allow us to mentally represent or think about the objects and events in our world. So, we will just have a detailed view that what exactly this term schema means, because schema is the most important and the like most primary basic component of the theory of Piaget, given by Piaget. So basically, as we have earlier also detailed, that schemas are the basic building blocks of cognitive models and enables us to form a mental representation of the world. In more simple terms, Piaget called the schema the basic building block of intelligent behavior, a way of organizing knowledge. So, moreover, it is useful to think of schemas as units of knowledge, each relating to one aspect of the world, including objects, actions, and abstract concepts. So, when Piaget says about the development of a person's mental process or processes, he has referring to increases in the number and complexity of the schema or the schemata that a person had learned. When a child's existing schemas are capable of explaining what it can perceive around it, it is said to be in the state of equilibrium. That is a state of cognitive balance. Piaget emphasized the importance of schemas in cognitive development and described how they were developed or acquired. A schema can be defined as a set of the linked mental representations of the world, which we use both to understand or to respond to situations, different situations. The assumption is that we store these mental representations and apply them whenever they are needed. For example, a person might have a schema about having food in a restaurant. Here the schema is a stored form of the pattern of behavior, which includes like first the person enters to the restaurant, and if he is willing to have some food, first of all he will look to the menu. Then after selecting the food items which he want to have, he will order the food. Then he will eat the food and pay the bill. So this is an example of a schema. Basically, the entire process of entering to a restaurant and having food and then paying the bill. This is something which is actually there in the mind of a person in the form of a kind of you can say steps, which is here can be explained as schema. So whenever they are in a restaurant, a person is in a restaurant, they retrieve this schema from memory and apply it to the situation. So there is no any stress on the memory whenever we enter to the restaurant, because everything is there in our mind. So we just have to recall and we have to act accordingly. So Piaget believed that newborn babies have a small number of innate schemas, even before they have had many opportunities to experience the world. So these neonatal schematas or schemas are the cognitive structures underlying innate reflexes. These reflexes are genetically programmed into these newborn babies. For example, babies having a sucking reflex, which is triggered by something touching the baby's lips. So if a baby will suck a nipple or a comfort toy or a person's finger, like if some sort of thing is actually in close touch of this baby's lips, he will be inclined or she will be inclined to suck it. So Piaget in this way assumed that this baby is having the schema of sucking anything which is near to the mouth of the baby. So this is something which is called as schema. Now let us see what is ahead. So the various schemas with their contents form the basic structure of the human mind. So the earlier schemas represent those reflexes and instincts that are biologically inherited. However, as a child grows with the interaction of physical and social environment, this child is able to form different schemas, resulting in changes and modifications in his or her cognitive structures. Now let us see the next basic component, which is the cognitive functioning. So earlier we were taking a look towards the cognitive structure, under which there was the discussion on schema. So now it is cognitive functioning. What is cognitive functioning? So the structure of an organism is said to play a decisive role in its functioning. So what is available to an individual in terms of his or her schema decides how this person is going to respond to the stimuli present in his or her physical or social environment. So on the other hand, the individual has to adopt or adapt to his environment for survival as well as for proper growth and development. So if there are certain things which are not present in the environment, so we have to restructure our schema according to the needs. We have to change or make an amendment in the schema. So this is something which is mentioned under the cognitive functioning. So the key to this cognitive development lies in the constant interaction with an adaptation to the physical and social environment of the child. So schema has to be changed whenever there is a different situation. So the task of such adaptation is carried out through the process of assimilation and accommodation. And we are going to have a discussion on what exactly this assimilation and accommodation mean. So first of all, let us see what is assimilation. Assimilation refers to a kind of matching between the already existing cognitive structures and the environmental needs as they arise. In a situation where a 6 months old infant is given a new toy, suppose we have given a new toy to a 6 months old neonatal, it is likely to respond. This small child is likely to respond by putting the toy in his or her mouth. So the first thing which this child will do will put this toy into his or her mouth. So this is assimilation, as what the child did was to assimilate, incorporate, or fit ideas about the new toy into already existing cognitive structures about old toys. So that's why we have to be very much cautious about giving different type of toys to children of a very small age, because the first thing which they do is to put all these toys to their mouth. So this child's cognitive structure about old toys revolve around the sucking schema, because the first thing which this fellow did was sucking. So that's why whenever a new toy is given to this child, the sucking schema will be recalled, and therefore this child at once responded by performing the act of sucking. By putting the toy into the mouth, he will start sucking, because there is an old sucking schema which is recalled. So this is this entire process of getting a new information and reacting on the basis of whatever was earlier understood is called as assimilation. So students, now let us see the next basic concept, which is accommodation. So let us discuss this accommodation with the previous example only. We just continue that example. So in this case, the new toy which is given to this newborn or a 6 months baby is too big to be picked up and placed in the mouth, because earlier he was picking up the new toy and placing it in the mouth. But suppose we have given a new toy and which is bigger enough so that this baby is not able to pick up and place it in the mouth. So it will certainly need a change or modification in the already existing cognitive structure. So the child will have to change his old ways of thinking and behaving in order to adapt or adjust to the new situation. So what will happen? Now instead of sucking, the child may respond by pushing or snatching or grasping this new toy. So here whatever is happening, we can say that is accommodation. Because here in terms of accommodating, this baby or the child is trying to accommodate or adjust to new ways of thinking and behaving in place of assimilating or behaving in the same old fashion. So here, whereas in this process of assimilation, the child's responses are supposed to bank upon his or her past experiences and already compiled stock of information. In the process of accommodation, this child has to learn new ways of thinking and behaving by making changes or modifications in his or her existing cognitive structure. For instance, when the child is offered milk in a glass, instead of the like feeling like we normally give the babies milk in a feeder or bottle. So now the mother has tried to give milk in a glass. So first, what will happen? This child will try his old way of behaving, which is sucking. But now in terms of a glass, having milk with a glass, this is not possible. So what will happen? Uh, there will be the process of accommodation which will start happening, and he or she will pick up the new way, and consequently he or she will make the necessary modification in the process of having milk without sucking it from the nipple or from the feeder bottle, and will have the milk in the new way. And this modification in the old cognitive structure will be the process of accommodation, which has happened in terms of having milk by this particular child. So this was accommodation. Now we will see that what is the next step or next basic concept, and that is basically disequilibrium and equilibration. These two terms will be taken at most of the times we will take them together. So that's why I have written them like on the same screen. So parallel to the concept of processes of assimilation and accommodation, linked with the process of the child's cognitive development, Piaget postulated the concept of equilibration. He said that the process of assimilation or accommodation helps the organism in adjusting or maintaining a harmonious relationship between the child and his or her environment. This adjustment mechanism uh, is it can be called as equilibration because this is regarded by Piaget in the form of equilibration. It can be defined as this process of equilibration can be defined as an innate tendency or continuous drive on the part of an organism to organize its experiences through what? Through assimilation or accommodation for obtaining optimal adaptation to the changing demands of its environment by maintaining a proper balance between its cognitive structure and the changing demands of its environment. So what will be the crux that whenever there is a demand of change, we tend to make an equilibrium. So whenever there is something which is not understood by us, suppose there is a new concept which is taught to us and we are not able to understand that, so there will be a kind of disequilibrium which will be in our cognitive behavior. It will be there in our mind. We try again and again to understand that particular concept, and until unless we understand that concept, there will be this disequilibrium. And once this concept is understood by us, there will be the development, or you can say that there will be equilibration in our mind. And then we can say that this process of adaptation to this new concept has happened. So it is the individual feeling uncomfortable. It is basically the process, this equilibrium is basically the process where the person feel uncomfortable and start recognizing his cognitive structure for equipping himself or herself with new ways of thinking and behavior, so that he or she can come to this process of equilibration. So this was disequilibrium and equilibration. Now let us see what is this term adaptation mean. So on getting the state of equilibrium, the newly learned concept becomes the part of the cognitive structure of the learners, and it is adapted for further learning and applied in new situations. So whatever is learned, suppose this new concept is learned to us, it becomes the part of our cognitive structure, or there is a particular schema which is actually placed in our cognitive structure, which we can use whenever we want to. So once this particular concept is learned, we can say that we become adapted, or there is a process of adaptation which has happened to us. So after learning or creating a new schema. So this was adaptation. Now let us the next thing. Here we will discuss few of the more points which Piaget has highlighted. So Piaget highlighted the role of the factors in a person's cognitive makeup and the functioning of a person's cognitive structure. So what are these factors? We will just have a look on those. So according to Piaget, the biologically inherited reflexes and mental dispositions are the fundamental cognitive structures. Then he said that the changes and development brought about in the cognitive structure through maturation, basically the what according to him, all these changes and the development in the cognitive structures are brought about by through the process of maturation, which is the process of the natural growth of a human being. Then he said that the changes and development in the cognitive structure brought about through experiences. What exactly the experiences mean? That the interaction with the physical and social environment. In all those cognitive changes or things which are happening in some sort of where some sort of change is involved, uh, and then the cognitive structure is developing. Uh, all these changes brought about by the experiences involve the process of assimilation, accommodation, and equilibration. So this is these are few of the highlights which were given by Piaget in terms of explaining his theory of cognitive development. Now let us see the different stages of cognitive development, which is the most important part of the theory of cognitive development given by Piaget. So because as we have earlier also discussed, that Piaget's theory is basically a stage theory. Stage theory means it is based on the different spans or different stages of the life of a human baby. So, as we have already pointed out, that Piaget, on account of his biological background, traced the initiation of human cognitive development in terms of biologically inherited ways of interacting with the environment. He's like further said that the changes and development in a person's cognitive structure are brought about by interaction with this person's physical and social environment. This task is carried out through the mechanism of equilibration, resulting in constant organization of this person's cognitive structure by the interplay of accommodation and assimilation. This task of constant organization of the mental structure is an individual phenomenon, and we can therefore find wide differences between children in terms of possession of cognitive abilities. So Piaget has also concluded that this organization of the mental structure in all children always takes place in a particular order involving definite stages of intellectual development. So children of the same age may differ in terms of possession of mental abilities. So the order in which the abilities evolve and the pattern of development are like in most of the times, most of the places, we can say that they are constant and universal. But there can be variations because there are different factors related to heredity and environment which are there. But still, the stages which are defined by Piaget, we are going to just have a look on those stages of the cognitive development. So, according to Piaget, there are four stages of cognitive development. So, basically, the cognitive development which reflect the increasing sophistication of children's thought is having four stages as given by Piaget. And the first stage is here, which is mentioned here, is sensory motor stage. And this stage is spanning from the birth of the child till the age of 2. Then we have got the second stage, which is pre-operational stage, which actually extend from the age of 2 to the age of 7. Then we have got the concrete operational stage from the age of 7 till the age of 11. And then there is the fourth and final stage, which is formal operational stage, and which has a span of 11 plus years to adolescence and adulthood. So each child goes through the stages in the same order. And this is according to Piaget. Basically, each child goes through the stages in the same order, and child development is determined by biological maturation and interaction with the environment. Although no stage can be missed out, there are individual differences in the rate at which children progress through stages, and some individuals may never attain the later stages. So this is also one of the facts which are to be taken care of whenever we are studying the stage theory of human development. So now let us have a detailed overview of all these stages. So the first stage which I'm going to discuss is the sensory motor stage. And as we have earlier also discussed, that this stage starts with the birth of the child, and it is extended till the age of 2 years. So this stage is characterized by the absence of language and is limited to the child's direct sensory and motor interactions with the environment. Main achievement during this stage is object permanence. What is this? Basically, knowing that an object still exists even if it is hidden. So that is called as object permanence. So it requires the ability to form a mental representation, which is basically the schema. So which we have already discussed. That is why all those terms were discussed earlier, because now we are going to see that how these terms, the schema, then the adaptation, assimilation, accommodation, how they play a role in the different stages of human development. So basically, this process of development, the first stage even, it requires the ability to form a mental representation or a schema of the object. Now come to the second stage. Second stage is pre-operational stage, which has the extent from the age of 2 years to 7 years of age. So during this stage, young children can think about things symbolically. So there is the stage where symbols or symbolic representations are very important. So the learning of language provides this child with a good tool for thinking. Thinking is still egocentric, and the infant has difficulty taking the viewpoint of others. This stage we can subdivide into the first part is pre-conceptual phase. Approximately the pre-conceptual phase starts with the initial phase, which is 2 years, and it is extended till 4 years. So this is the period of rudimentary concept formation. So the mode of thinking and reasoning is quite illogical at this stage. Then we have got the second sub part of pre-operational stage, which is intuitive phase, which is extended approximately from the age of 4 years to 7 years. So at this stage, the child progresses towards the formation of various concepts at a more advanced level. But still, the thinking of the child at this stage is full of contradictions and confusions. So still the development of logical thinking has not happened, and egocentricity and everything is mine only, this type of feeling is there in this child. Now let us see the third stage, which is concrete operational stage. And this stage starts from the age of 7 years and extends till the age of 11 years. So Piaget considered the concrete stage or concrete operational stage a major turning point in the child's cognitive development. Why? Because it marks the beginning of logical or operational thoughts. This means the child can work out things internally in her head. So now she will start thinking, or she can make some logic or logical thinking starts. So rather than physically trying things out in the real world, she can even think of and make the solutions in her mind. So children can conserve the concepts of number, mass, and weight. Uh, this what is this conservation? Conservation is the understanding that something stays the same in quantity even though its appearance changes. So in this way, the child reaches a satisfactory level in terms of intellectual development by its thinking becoming quite systematic and logical. However, what is done or thought by this child at this stage is done purely on a concrete level. So this is very important to understand that still the concrete understanding is there. So this child's thought process or processes are limited to real events observed or the actual objects operated by himself or by this child. So this child is unable to think in abstract terms. In this way, the concrete operational stage can actually by a pre-preparation for the final stage of the last stage, which is the formal operational stage, which is mainly concerned with abstractions. So we can say that the concrete operational stage is the stage of preparatory stage for the final stage or the formal operational stage. So now let us see the formal operational stage. Uh, the formal operational stage, it starts with 11 plus years of age, and it goes till adolescence and maybe till adulthood. So in the formal operational stage, people develop the ability to think about abstract concepts and logically test hypotheses. So the intellectual development and functioning takes a very sophisticated shape at this stage as the child learns to deal with abstraction by logical thinking. Actually, this child learns to utilize the tool of symbolism as effectively as possible in the process of thought and problem solving. So the child now gets interested in forms. He or she begins to construct relationships between concrete operations and between symbols. So generalizations and framing of rules by operating in abstract terms become quite possible at this stage. So the child now begins to appreciate that some hypothetical problem can be solved mentally by applying the same rule or rules as it would be applied to concrete problems. So now there is like at times it is not desired to do some sort of concrete activity to solve the problem. Even the child can make a concrete assumption, like concrete, she can view the concrete thing, and according to that particular concrete experience, she can make an abstract idea of solving the same sort of problem at some different time. So the child begins to look at problems in many ways and explore various solutions, but in very systematic and logical way. So this is something which is very much important, because in the earlier stage we were seeing that the child was very illogical. There was no logical thinking, but here the child has become very systematic, and the entire thinking process has shaped in a very logical manner. So, for example, if a child of this stage is shown five colorless and odorless liquids in few of the test tubes, and is asked to find out what combination of these liquids which are there in the test tube. Suppose we have taken five test tubes, and how we can make produce a kind of brown liquid by making a putting few of the liquids, mixing of liquids. So this child will go and try to mix these liquids, and will be in a position to make out that which combination is going to give the brown liquid. So there will be a kind of discovery approach which is possible here. So this child will try to discover the possible combination by adopting a systematic approach. So what she can do? Maybe she can combine the first and second liquid, then first and third liquid, or maybe first and fourth, and maybe she can just go ahead and mix the combination of first and second with the third liquid. So this type of experimentations can be done by the child, because she is willing to come to a result in which she has to bring out the brown liquid which is desired. So it is quite distinctive in comparison to the children belonging to earlier stages of cognitive development, who were very simply um, doing things and getting on finding the solutions by different trial and error things, and like there was only concrete operations which were involved. Here thinking and logical thinking is involved. So we can say that in formal operational stage, uh, people start to think logically, and problem solving is started. So this is the very kind of stage where maturity is very much can be seen. So now we have seen all the four stages. Let us see the educational implications of Piaget's theory of cognitive development, because this theory is very important educationally also. So Piaget's theory is based upon biological maturation and stages. We have already discussed this. So the notion of readiness is important. What is readiness? Readiness concerns when certain information or concepts should be taught. According to Piaget, like his theory says that children should not be taught certain concepts until they have reached the appropriate stage of cognitive development. So according to him, assimilation and accommodation require an active learner, not a passive one, because problem solving skills cannot be taught, they must be discovered. So within the classroom learning, there should be we are saying this again and again, that the classrooms of today should be student centered, child centered, and this is very much sought after. But if we look through the glass of Piaget's theory, it is very much stated there that within the classroom learning, there should be student-centered and environment, and which should be accomplished through active discovery learning. The role of the teacher is to facilitate learning rather than direct tuition. So therefore, teachers should encourage some of these activities which we are just going to mention, which can be seen, or we can say that are the postulates which we have got through the Piaget's theory of cognitive development. So the first point is that focus on the process of learning rather than the end product of it. This will make the process enjoyable. Then the second point is that using active methods that require rediscovering or reconstructing new ideas. Discovery learning should be given much importance. Then the next point says that using collaborative as well as individual activities so that children can learn from each other. Then the next point says that devising situations that present useful problems and create disequilibrium in the child, which will drive her towards attaining equilibrium and gaining new information or new knowledge. Then the next point says evaluate the level of the child's development so suitable task can be set. This particular point can help the curriculum developers and educational planners for making age appropriate provisions for the children. So all these were the educational implications of Piaget's theory. So now let us see the critical evaluation of Piaget's theory, because even Piaget's theory was critically evaluated, and there were certain critiques which were placed for this theory of cognitive development also. So the influence of Piaget's ideas in developmental psychology has been very vast, very enormous. He changed how people viewed the children's world and their methods of studying, uh, like the studying of children. He was an inspiration to many who came after and took up these ideas. So Piaget's ideas have generated a huge amount of research, which has increased our understanding of cognitive development. His ideas have been of practical use in understanding and communicating with children, particularly in the field of education in the form of discovery learning. So these are the things which are very positive in case of Piaget. But there are few of those critical remarks also which we have to see, and because critiques are very much important whenever we are having kind of discussion, and we are seeing a theory with a broader perspective. So let us see those critiques or criticisms which Piaget's theory has faced. So the first point is that Piaget's views on the pattern of intellectual development are not as uniform and universal as claimed by him. He based his theory on detailed observations of European children, because all those samples, we have already discussed that the earlier samples were his own children, own three boys. So what the critics say that the observations are based on the only on the European children. So how we can make a generalization? So in the subsequent researches in Europe and outside, uh, the researchers has demonstrated significant deviations from the chronological ages linked with different stages of intellectual development, which were given by Piaget. So people say that whatever is given by Piaget is based on a narrow sample. So he has not seen these consequences outside Europe. So this is the first critique. Then the next thing which can be discussed in terms of the critique of Piaget's theory is that Piaget's view that thinking proceeds in distinct stages has also been seriously challenged. It has been found that cognitive performances at particular ages is usually very inconsistent. So we cannot make a segmentation, or we cannot put in silos all those things that this will happen in this age and this will happen in that age. So, but in the theory of Piaget, we can very clearly say that it is seen that things are all those activities are segmented. Age-wise segmentation is very particularly done. So this is the next criticism. Then Piaget's claim that children below the age of concrete operations are incapable of logical thinking and are egocentric has been actually contested by a number of research studies. It has been established that children are able to think logically, as well as they show sensitivity and concern for the feelings of the viewpoints of others, uh, or like other children or parents or other people, even at early stages, or even at sometimes we can see these type of concerns in very small children also. So this is also something which is basically criticized in this theory of Piaget. Then Piaget has linked biological maturation with the development of cognitive abilities, and this can we can say that this made an certain stage of maturation necessary for learning the cognitive task which are related to the maturation age. So Piaget says that this we can say that this is often blamed for being a pure nativist. He is blamed for being a pure nativist who gives singular importance to biological maturation for the intellectual development of the children. So this is also one of the basic critique which is done for Piaget's thought process or the theory of cognitive development given by Piaget. Now let us sum up. Basically, now we have reached to a summary kind of thing. We are just going to make a quick recap of what we have learned today. So we have seen that Piaget's theory of cognitive development discusses the intellectual development of the children in its two broader aspects, the cognitive structure and cognitive functioning. The initial cognitive structure of the child consists of a few inborn instincts and reflexes like sucking, looking, reaching and grasping, and many more, and which are called schemas by Piaget. So this word schema has been discussed here. Then, which are all these are helped by the process of assimilation, accommodation, and equilibration. Significant changes are brought into initial cognitive structure involving definite sequential stages of intellectual development, and Piaget named them as a sensory motor stage, pre-operational stage, concrete operational stage, and formal operational stage. So the sensory motor stage starts from birth, and it goes on till 2 years. Uh, this particular stage is characterized by the absence of language and limited to the child's direct sensory and motor interaction with the environment. So as a main development, the child acquires the concept of object permanence. In the next stage, which is pre-operational stage, which extends from 2 years to 7 years, the child reacts through words or other symbolic representations or images to the things in the environment. His thought process at this stage is highly egocentric, showing inability to consider others' point of view. Then the third stage, which is concrete operational stage, which starts from 7 years and goes on till 11 years. Children begin to think logically but are unable to think in abstract terms. Their thought process is limited to concrete objects and events. So they are able to understand the cognitive concepts such as number, classification, and conservation, and all those things, but still the abstraction is not there. Then the final stage or the fourth stage, which is formal operational stage, which starts from 11 plus years, and we can say that it extends till the adolescence or maybe till adulthood. The individuals are able to think abstractly, test hypotheses, and deal with problems that are not physically present in their environment, even those problems which are not physically present. So here the abstract thinking starts. So actually this stage reflects the most advanced period in the functioning of the cognitive system. So the individual here may react or may reach the intellectual potential to discover the solutions to the problems through mental manipulations of symbols by adopting a logical and systematic way known as scientific thinking and problem solving. So these were all the four stages which we discussed in detail. Then we have also seen the educational implications of the theory. We have seen that how this theory is relevant in today's scenario, even because whenever there is something which is planned for children, we have to see that how these things, the curriculum or any sort of planning, is age appropriate, and this theory gives a very kind of good narrative in terms of age appropriateness. We have also seen few of those critiques which are done for this theory of cognitive development of Piaget, because there is nothing which we can say that can't be criticized. So even Piaget's theory was criticized, and we have seen all those critiques also. And I hope that today's discussion would be meaningful and you would have understood all those points and concepts which are discussed here today in this lecture. And I hope to see you all again very soon. Thank you for till the next meeting. Thank you so much.